You have to go for medicals. You have to keep renewing your visa. Even if you do not come to the country for those 10 years, it's okay. Your visa status is still active. An outstanding student can qualify for a golden visa. We are actually doing someone's golden visa on basis of volunteering in UAE. See, to be very honest and very fair, all the licenses are easy.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us in today's episode where we've been multiple times asked by people about golden visa. I have my dear friend Zeba who manages an entity in UAE where they help people getting golden visas, setting up companies in UAE, helping them with account opening because that's also become a very progressive or a problematic thing right now that getting a company account open also takes time and effort. So I'll introduce my dear friend Zeba. Hi Zeba, thank you for coming over.
Thank you, Amit. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So Zeba, I think the first question that I'll ask you is, which everyone wants to know, I myself got it through you only, so you're the right person to help us. That
we were glad that we were able to help.
Thank you. I'm also happy that I got it. But the first question would be to understand what is the benefits of having a golden visa, and then you can add on the various processes how people can get a golden visa in UAE.
Sure. Amit, for how long have you lived in UAE?
I've been here for a very small period, 21 years.
21 years, wow. So you know how this used to work, right?
Correct.
We had the 3 years visa. We had to go for medical test every time.
Correct.
Then 3 years became 2 years recently. Now every time we have to, either we shift a job or it's the same company, doesn't matter. You have to go for medicals. You have to keep renewing your visa.
Correct.
Even if somebody is not living here, they have to come once a year or once in 6 months, depending on the kind of visa that they have. Now these are all with the 2-year visas that we've all had all our lives until Dubai announced, UAE announced golden visa.
Correct.
So the major advantage is that it's a 10-year visa.
Okay.
So you finish your medicals, you finish biometrics for somebody who has never done it. Okay. That's done right in the beginning. And then for 10 years, you don't have to do anything.
Okay.
Even if you do not come to the country for those 10 years, it's okay. Your visa status is still active. It doesn't get cancelled vis-a-vis how it used to be.
Just to reconfirm that anyone who avails a golden visa doesn't need to stay in UAE to keep its validity or continuity.
Absolutely.
They take a golden visa and then they stay outside for their travel or business.
Yeah.
That's completely fine.
It's absolutely fine. Not only that, they can also sponsor their family. So that's their spouse, their children, their parents, and of course, unlimited domestic help.
Oh. That made you happy also while answering. So I'm sure it makes many women happy or housewives or who have kids or have families here.
Non-denial.
Yeah. But now after understanding the plus point, now what are the ways an individual can get a golden visa in UAE?
Okay. So there are several categories.
Okay.
Right from someone who's a student, an outstanding student can qualify for a golden visa as long as they have proven a good track record. They've got good scores, good university, they can qualify. Could be someone who is a doctor, nurses, astronaut, engineers, teachers, anybody that's skilled and has contributed in the space of AI or any sort of scientific things, research, they all qualify. Could be a businessman bases his or her income.
So this certification would be from their respective university, which is based here or outside UAE also, right?
Doesn't matter.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that certification would say, let's say if an individual, a child at 18 years has created something extraordinary, so he would get an appreciation certificate from his university.
Correct, yeah.
That would help you in getting that necessary approval that he would get that golden visa on that category. Because there has to be a supporting document.
Absolutely,
correct?
100%. So we require that. We require an equivalency certificate because sometimes the university we may not be aware of.
Yeah.
But if the equivalency comes and it's recognized university, 100% they can qualify. Not only that, Amit, recently we are actually doing someone's golden visa on basis of volunteering in UAE. So, so she is 24 years old and she's been volunteering ever since she was 17 or 18. So, every time you volunteer, you get X amount of hours. So once you get 500 hours, you can qualify for a golden visa. That's the government's way of appreciating for all
people who are doing voluntary for NGOs and all. For any events which are based on humanitarian reasons, correct?
Correct.
That's where you volunteer. You would not volunteer for a financial event. It's
Correct.
for a social event like a marathon which happens here.
Or a
you're
Paralympic, which happens. So all of that. Then of course you have for somebody who's bought on property basis.
Yeah.
Someone who's a professional and salary is above 30,000 dirhams. They also qualify. Could also be someone who's just kept a deposit in the bank.
Correct. So
various
now
categories.
I want to understand first. Let's go step by step on the property side.
Yeah.
What is the minimum property value one has to have to get a visa on that property?
Okay, so the property value needs to be 2 million.
Fully paid up?
Doesn't matter. Fully paid up or off plan, mortgage, doesn't matter.
Basically, a document shows that I own a property worth 2 million. It
Correct.
could be an off plan where I've paid $500,000, but I booked that property. I still qualify to get a golden visa. What would be the tenure of that visa? 5 years, 10 years?
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's the heart of the question actually.
Yeah.
So anybody who's got 2 million and above
Yeah.
in individual name. Okay,
Correct.
so say for example it's a husband wife, but the property is 2 million.
Okay.
They can't. So husband wife is okay, but otherwise it has to be an individual. Say it's two friends. They have to have 2 million each in their respective names. So as long
non-related, blood related is fine. Like father son having it is fine.
No. It's only spouse.
Acha, only husband.
Only husband wife. Okay. So it has to be 2 million each in their name except husband wife.
Okay.
After that, then the property, say somebody's purchased the property earlier and the property was much lesser. Now obviously the property
because of the
market's gone up. Yeah. So if you do a valuation and the property comes 2 million and above, 2 million or above, they can qualify for it.
Okay.
So in this obviously the tenure is 10 years. For someone who has a 1 million dirham property and is above the age of 55, they can get a 5-year visa.
Okay.
Someone who's just invested 750,000 dirhams can get a 2-year visa.
Okay. That 750 has to be without a loan, right? I'm sure.
Doesn't matter.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a 2-year.
Yeah.
Okay. Another important point would be that's on the property side. Second was you mentioned on a fixed deposit where HNI clients who don't want to go on the property side
Correct.
could keep a deposit in their private banking account.
Yeah.
In that, what is the amount required?
So again, it's 2 million, but it has to be held for minimum 3 years.
So if today I walk into a bank,
Yeah.
park 2 million dirhams in a fixed deposit for 3 years,
Yeah.
with that certificate, I can apply a golden visa.
Correct.
And important part is that FD can't be touched for 3 years because the bank has locked it for 3-year period.
Absolutely.
I can't uplift it because a visa is being issued.
Yes, correct.
After 3 years, I can
Or you
uplift.
cancel the visa,
Correct.
take the
Then I can touch
cancellation
it.
paper and then
Then go to the bank and say that the whole
release
purpose
the
of this
funds.
FD is now taken
Dissolved.
care of.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
Okay. Any other parameters is left for a golden visa? You mentioned property. You mentioned on basis of education, certification, voluntary services. You mentioned on
a
salary.
businessman, someone who's doing exceptionally well
Okay.
in his or her country or even over here. So if you remember, the first golden visa that was actually given was to Lulu, to the owner of Lulu, right? Because obviously for his contribution to the space, to the entire supermarket space, and also the way his business
Overall,
contributions.
whatever contribution he's done to the country.
Correct.
I'm sure for that, it was an appreciation token
Absolutely,
gesture, you can say, because he's been here for good 45, 50 years.
Absolutely.
Done everything. And
Hired so many people.
yeah. A good number of, I'm not sure how many people would be employed, but at least more than 5,000 people would be employed across the group.
Yeah.
In the region. So that was the parameter. I'm sure they started by appreciating people. It was used as a token or appreciation, and later on they opened it for people. So this, on the salary side, it's 30,000 minimum.
Yeah.
Any salaried individual working for any
Basic
company.
salary 30,000.
And that's across UAE, right? I could be
Across
working in Sharjah, Ajman.
Yes,
If my employer pays me 30,000, let's say for 1 year, I can qualify to apply for a golden visa.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's there. Second important point which we come to is on company formation. Now, this is also something, because I'll tell you, both of us have met people who migrate here, parking their families after 2020. They realize that the safety or the future this country gives, they all are not well versed which is an easier way to set up a company. So then they start their revenue, and then later on they decide which direction they want to grow. Then they open a bigger setup in that particular free zone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what would be your suggestion whenever a new individual from any country comes here? What is the easiest license they can get on to start with?
See, to be very honest and very fair, all the licenses are easy.
Okay.
It's not challenging unless it's a license which has some regulation, some approvals required. But again, approvals in this region, once the conditions are fulfilled, you get it. It's a no-brainer.
I think that would be for when you're having financial transactions.
Not necessarily.
Something to do with banking or where you have regulators involved, correct?
No, yeah. See, for example, even if you see how many real estate companies have propped up,
Correct.
right? After 2021, there's so many
Yeah.
companies, right? Now, obviously, this requires a radar approval,
Correct.
which is the real estate authority. It's very easy to get.
Yeah.
It's not difficult at all. So again, the approval. So licenses are very easy. The licenses which would be challenging would be time consuming are if they're governed by DIFC, which is because it's governed by UK laws.
Okay.
Or ADGM, which is a more complicated structure, but nevertheless, if the client has supporting documents, has the kind of history, has the kind of background, it's no worries at all.
Okay.
The best thing about our licenses in this region is that everything can be done 100% remotely. So the client doesn't
need to
be
come
here.
physically.
Yeah.
So he could get in touch with your team, send the documents,
Yeah.
mention a checklist that this is the partners we want to keep on the company, this is the capital, this is the line of business.
Correct.
And then you guys will advise him which free zone is the easiest for you,
Absolutely.
where you can get a required space for your people to work,
Yeah.
and then you guide him.
Absolutely.
License gets issued, then you help him with the visa, then he can travel here, correct?
Absolutely. We send an entry permit and then they can come on that entry permit. So yes, so it's, and again, it's 100% could be foreign owned.
So, which makes life easier for a non-resident that he doesn't need to come multiple times on a visit visa.
Correct.
Struggle setting up a company
Yep.
and then jump into a resident, because that earlier that was the scenario long back, let's say 10-15 years back, that people used to come here on a visit,
Yeah.
do their homework, set up a company, put the capital, then once the license is issued, then you get the visa issued on that company, correct?
Correct. And also an advantage with this region is that the share capital mentioned is notionary. Means it doesn't need to be placed. Like earlier, certain
It was
authorities...
300,000 for a normal LLC company.
Yeah, now
Long
you can
back.
reduce it. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, it doesn't need to be parked in the bank. You know, earlier, even with like DMCC licenses I'm talking about, whatever used to be the share capital, until and unless it was not deposited in the bank and you gave that letter to the authorities, then only your trade license was issued. That's not the case
I remember
anymore.
people used to open an account. It was an account which was blocked. So the
Correct.
bank would open a blocked account with that trade license name, which a DLD will, DED used to issue a paper that, okay, for Amit, I have blocked this name, let's say ABC LLC.
Yeah, trade name reservation.
That paper will go to the bank. Bank would create a dummy account, let the money come in,
Correct.
then issue a certificate that Amit has been able to get this capital. Now you issue an LLC
Trade
license,
license, yes.
MOA, AOA all gets made in the court. That
Correct.
was the process I think 15 years back.
Yeah, but now it's just so easy. You need not have that capital deposited. So it just gives so much leeway to the shareholder, because obviously when somebody is setting up a company in this region, right? First, you're new to the region. Secondly, there are a lot of operating costs as a company that you have to bear.
Correct.
Right? So then keeping this capital blocked and then just to issue the license, it didn't make sense. So UAE's actually made it very strategic for a lot of investors to come in and has, made it a very easy
It's
hub.
basically made life easier for expat population to
Correct.
manage it peacefully, right?
Yep.
With lots of, without any issues. So that's one thing. Now, what is the lowest cost one individual needs to get a trade license issued?
As low as 6,000 dirhams.
So which means any individual who has 6,000 dirhams can set up a company.
Absolutely.
Correct. A transactional business operating company with
Yeah,
6,000 dirhams within UAE.
Within UAE.
Okay. And I'm sure upper side there is no limit depending
is
on
no
the free
limit.
zone. Because if I open a company in DIFC, I'm sure the regulations are different.
Correct.
The capital amount is different.
Yeah,
the cost is different.
Absolutely.
So it goes as per, there's no benchmark on a higher side. Another important point, Zeba, is first someone has got a golden visa.
Yep.
He's formed a company. Now third point which he reaches out in the country is opening a bank account for the company. Individual accounts, I have noticed myself, they are still easy because you have people sitting in the branch
Correct.
who work as PFCs or personal financial advisors who open accounts. Company is still challenging because everyone doesn't have a bandwidth to understand what is the governance or compliance which is required to open that company account.
Yep.
Correct. So what is, how could your company help someone who has set up a company through you and now wants to open a bank account?
So Amit, just like you, I've been a banker in the past, right? So worked in banks like HSBC and Emirates NBD.
Okay.
So we understand the documentation part perfectly. Now, what happens is if somebody's formed a company, obviously the person has no records in this region.
Okay.
Today, if I have to go to India or I have to go to, or somebody who's living in UK has to go to a bank over there, it's super easy for them to open an account. Reason being because literally they have all their records with them. So even if they want to pull out a blood report, they could pull it out. But over here, you're new to this region.
Yeah.
So the government doesn't have so much records of you. So that's why the banks get challenging where the compliance is concerned. However, we would ease that completely for the client, collate all the necessary documents, tell the clients what's required. We would do a lot of to and fro with the clients and explain the client why a particular document is why we are asking.
Correct.
Right, which the bank obviously doesn't have the time to do that. So we would kind of just step in, mitigate any sort of delays over there. Would arrange the meeting for the client, and then obviously whatever the credentials are or anything that happens, it's all client's account. It's nothing of us, but we would just mitigate any sort of delays over there.
Okay. Yeah. So your team would help them end to end to get the account open.
Yeah.
Okay. Majorly, just to understand, not to categorize,
Yep.
is it easier to open an account with a local bank or with an MNC?
Very interesting.
With your
question.
experience.
100% a local bank. Reason is because MNCs over here, the central bank has controlled the local banks, which means it's given more powers to the local banks. So opening a business account over there or a small business account over there is easier. Whereas with an international bank, you require to have a substance. When I say a substance, you need to have a proper office in place. You need to have 2 years of audited financials, and you require certain turnover to be achieved in order for them to consider your business profile.
Okay. Maybe the multinational wants to cater to someone who's established
Correct.
at the moment versus someone who's just newly formed a company because they feel that turnover or the business transactions won't be that much for it's like a newborn baby where there is less thing to be managed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could be. So that's the reason. So Zeba, what I've understood is the company that you manage here helps people with golden visas.
Yes.
Then you help people with setting up a company.
Yeah.
Okay. Third is after the company setup, you help them with company account opening.
Yes.
Is there anything additional your company does which I'm sure the viewers can know and benefit?
Sure. So we also do accountancy for the clients, which is complete bookkeeping, accountancy, assist them with their invoices. Because see, you have to understand, Amit, maybe they're not based here full time.
Correct.
Right? Maybe it's a businessman who's traveling all the time, right?
Okay.
So in that case, it's just easier for him or her to have operations outsourced because they don't have the pain to hire somebody and have a visa to be issued. So we would deal like a secretary to them, which is offer complete service like a secretary, follow up on their invoices, send invoices to their clients. We would do that. Sometimes, if there's any sort of meetings that they want us to attend for them, we would do that for them. But looking at their bookkeeping, accountancy, and their corporate tax registration and filing.
Okay. But do you also help them with VAT assistance? Because
Absolutely, yes.
So VAT consultancy also, wherein
Yes.
paying their quarterly VAT and all, you advise with them.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
This includes any business advisory service because I've understood because my father was a businessman, my grandfather was a businessman, that when you run a business, at times you need advisory on either you want to enter certain products or industry or a region. So do you have something like that also?
100%. So we do that. Again, every client requirements are different. So sometimes what happens is if you have a client from Australia, assuming. So we would actually speak to the accountants, to their clients' accountants in Australia, speak to the accountants in our team over here, and then would come to a middle course on how it has to be done. It's not about evading tax, but it's just about efficiently planning taxation for the client.
Plus advising him on the right strategy, how they can expand their business. That's where I think a business consultancy or advisory comes into a picture. Okay. So thank you, Zeba. It was nice having you. I'm sure you get a good amount of inquiries from this because I'll tell you in last 1 year of me doing this podcast, many times people has asked that why don't we cover golden visa? That's the reason I thought of getting you on board because you've been doing this for good 4-5 years, so you understand. And in any industry or a product service that we offer, I'm sure the best point about you is it keeps on evolving.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
when you started this company, the process of golden visa would be different.
There was no golden visa then.
Correct, but let's say when they started issuing golden visa, let's say we needed to give 5 documents.
Correct.
In last 2 years, 5 has become 2, wherein the understanding has become ki we are more open because we want people to
Correct.
come and want them to do business, and it's like welcome everyone kind of a thing.
Correct. The mindset is completely changed.
That's the mindset for the place, that everyone is welcomed here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Zeba. Thank you for coming
Thank you
over.
so much.
And thank you, everyone. I'm sure you enjoyed the session. If you want to reach Zeba, we'll mention her contact details. You can reach out to her. Anything which you want us to be taken care of next time, or you want a particular topic to be covered, please let us know. Thank you.